Okay, sometimes you need to understand complex stuff fast. And that's what we do here. Today, we're diving deep into biodegradable chelating agents.
Right. Sounds technical, maybe. But stick with us. These little molecules are actually, well, pretty fundamental to a lot of industries, stuff you encounter every day.
So what are they, basically?
Fundamentally, they're chemicals that grab onto metal ions, like tiny chemical claws, you know? They
Yeah.
bind with dissolved metals.
Okay, claws. I like that. And why do we need them?
Oh, all sorts of things. Softening water, making detergents work better, helping fertilizers feed plants more effectively, cleaning up water, even in food and cosmetics.
The list goes on. But there's a problem with the traditional ones, right?
Exactly. That's the core issue driving this whole shift. The old guard, like EDTA, DTPA, they work, but they don't break down easily in the environment.
So they just stick around?
Pretty much. Persistence. They can linger in water, in soil, for ages, and that raises concerns, obviously.
Which brings us to the focus of today's deep dive.
Yeah.
The biodegradable alternatives. We've got this market research report we've been digging into.
Yeah, and our mission really is to pull out the key takeaways for you. What are the numbers? What's pushing the change? Where's the growth?
And, what makes these new guys different? Because this isn't some tiny niche market we're talking about.
Not at all. It's already billions of dollars globally, and it's genuinely transforming. This report maps that out quite clearly.
Okay, so let's set the stage again. Chelating agents grab metal ions. That's their job.
And the biodegradable ones, think MGDA, GLDA, names like that, they do the same job. The crucial difference is what happens afterwards.
Right. Unlike the old EDTA types that just hang around, these new ones are designed to break down naturally.
They do their work, grab the metals, and then poof, they degrade. No long-term chemical footprint, or at least much, much less of one.
Performance plus environmental responsibility. That's the goal.
Precisely. So let's talk scale. How big is this market, according to the report?
Okay, numbers time. Global market size for these biodegradable agents in 2025. USD $6,249.7 million.
So over $6 billion already.
Yeah, and looking ahead, the projection for 2033 is USD $963.53 million.
Wow, okay. So north of $9 billion.
Which works out to a compound annual growth rate, a CAGR of 4.90% between 2025 and 2033.
Almost 5% a year. That's steady, significant growth, isn't it? It's not just swapping old tech for new. It feels like expansion, too.
Definitely. So what's driving this? What's pushing industries this way?
Well, the report flags government regulations as a huge factor. Big one.
Like who?
Agencies like the European Chemicals Agency, ECHA, and the US EPA, they're putting much stricter limits on persistent chemicals.
So if you can't use the old stuff easily anymore.
You need alternatives. Simple as that in some ways. But it's not just regulations.
Right. What else?
Well, just growing industrial use across the board. Detergents, farming, water treatment. Demand for chelation is up, and so is the demand for it to be, green.
And technology's helping, too.
Yeah. The report mentions advancements in biotech, green chemistry, basically making it more efficient to produce these more complex biodegradable molecules.
But it can't be all smooth sailing. Are there downsides? Restraints?
There are hurdles. A key one mentioned is cost, production cost.
More expensive than the old stuff.
Generally, yes. The manufacturing can be more involved. You might need, enzymatic processes, fermentation. It's not always just straightforward chemical synthesis. More steps, specialized tech, that adds cost.
Okay. And regulations, even if they drive adoption, can they also be a challenge?
Sometimes. Different countries, different standards. Navigating that global patchwork can be complex for companies.
Makes sense. But the overall trend seems clear despite the costs.
Oh, definitely. The momentum is towards biodegradable. Regulations are pushing, but so is that broader demand for sustainable chemicals. From industry, from consumers, too.
We see it pop up in specific areas, right? Like agriculture.
Yeah, improving how plants take up nutrients, preventing heavy metal buildup in soil, doing it in a way that doesn't harm the soil long term. That's appealing.
And water treatment. That seems like a huge one.
Absolutely crucial. Removing harmful metals without then polluting the water downstream with the cleaning agent itself. That's a big win.
Okay, let's dig into the types of chemicals and who's using them. Product chemistry first.
The report breaks it down. There are different chemical families. Aminopolycarboxylates, or APCA, is a big category, but also things like Gluconates, Citrics.
And within those, the APCA group is expected to dominate.
That's what the report suggests, yeah. Because some key ones in that family, they bind metals really well, they're stable, and they biodegrade effectively.
Like the MGDA and GLDA you mentioned earlier.
Exactly. Those are highlighted as leading examples within APCA, known for good performance.
But here's a key detail.
Right.
While APCA is the biggest group, one specific type is growing fastest.
Ah, yes, GLDA. That's singled out as the fastest growing segment, chemistry-wise.
Why GLDA specifically?
It seems to hit a sweet spot. High biodegradability, good binding properties, works well under various conditions, and just a strong eco-friendly profile overall. It's seen as quite versatile, so adoption is happening fast.
Okay, so that's the what. Now the who, the end users. Who's buying this stuff?
Lots of sectors listed. Water treatment, obviously. Home care, think detergents. Pulp and paper. Personal care. Agriculture. Even healthcare, food and bev, construction, oil and gas. It's broad.
And the biggest slice of that pie goes to?
Water treatment holds the largest market share.
Which again makes total sense, right? Water pollution, regulations on discharge.
Yeah,
Everyone needs cleaner water.
precisely. Industries, cities, they need to get metals and scale out effectively, but without causing new environmental problems. These agents are perfect for that.
So that's the biggest user base. What about growth among users? Anything stand out?
Yeah, interestingly, the report highlights the personal care segment. Not the biggest share, but the fastest growing end user segment globally.
Personal care. So cosmetics, shampoos, that kind of thing.
Exactly, and that growth is really being pushed by consumers.
People wanting green labels on their products.
That's a huge part of it. Plus, regulations are getting tougher on certain traditional chemicals used in cosmetics, so manufacturers are shifting to biodegradable options like these chelating agents pretty quickly. They help stabilize products, improve feel, and do it sustainably.
So you've got this massive infrastructure base in water treatment, and then this really dynamic consumer-driven growth in personal care. Interesting mix.
It definitely paints a picture of where the action is.
Okay, let's put this on a map. Geographically, where's the market concentrated? And where's it growing fastest?
North America currently holds the biggest chunk, the major market share.
Oh.
The report pegged it at over 40% of global revenue back in 2025. That was USD 1812.41 million.
And why North America?
Mature industries, plus those strict regulations we talked about, EPA in the U.S. especially. The U.S. is the largest single country market. There's a strong focus on sustainable practices already embedded.
What's the growth rate there?
Projected CAGR is solid, 3.4%.
Okay, what about Europe?
Also significant. Over 30% of the market share in 2025, around USD 1.5 billion, and slightly faster growth projected, 3.8% CAGR. Again, strong regulatory bodies like ECHA are a big factor.
The fastest growth.
Yeah.
That's elsewhere.
Yes. The report points very clearly to Asia-Pacific, APAC.
Smaller share currently.
Yeah, around 23% in 2025, maybe USD 2.3 billion. But, and this is key, it's projected to be the fastest growing region globally.
What's the APAC TGR?
A strong 6.7%.
Wow. And what's driving that speed?
It's kind of a combination, rapid industrialization happening across the region, plus environmental regulations are tightening up, catching up, you might say, and governments are actively encouraging green chemistry adoption with incentives.
Any specific countries called out?
Yeah, the report mentions places like India and countries in Southeast Asia showing particularly high growth rates within that fast-growing APAC region.
And the report covers the rest of the world, too.
Gives numbers for South America over 5% share, growing at 5.2%. Middle East, around 2% share, 5.4% growth. And Africa, smaller, about 1% share, slower growth at 1.2%. Gives you the full picture.
So with all this growth and change, who are the companies making this happen? The players.
It's described as highly competitive. Lots of big, established chemical names are involved.
Like who?
You've got BASF, Lanxess, Dow, ExxonMobil, Solvay, Chimera, Eastman, Evonik, Arch Chemicals, Clariant. A lot of the major global players.
And what are they focusing on?
Innovation is key, developing better, more effective biodegradable options. Sustainability is obviously a huge marketing point and operational goal. And just navigating all those regulations we talked about, compliance is crucial.
Did the report mention any specific company moves?
Yeah.
Acquisitions, stuff like that?
Yeah, it included an example, LBB Specialties acquiring Custom Chemical Services back in early 2021. That was seen as a move to strengthen their position, partly in areas like personal care, where these agents are increasingly important, shows the market is active.
And the report didn't just stick to market data, right? It looked at broader factors.
Right. For example, it touched on economic and political things, like the potential impact of Trump's tariff war.
How did it handle that? because that can be politically charged.
The report just analyzed it neutrally, as these reports do. They look at how macro events, trade policy, supply chains might affect the specific industry. They don't take sides.
And what was the conclusion for this market regarding the tariffs?
Essentially, the analysis suggested that while tariffs could theoretically affect raw material costs or trade flows, the big drivers for this specific market, the strong regulatory push for green chemistry, the global demand, moves towards regional production, meant the overall impact wasn't expected to be as disruptive as maybe feared in other sectors. It was something to watch, but not seen as a major break on growth for biodegradable chelating agents specifically.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. What are the main takeaways from this deep dive into the report?
Well, first, this market is clearly growing, and growing steadily. Nearly 5% a year, heading towards over $9 billion. That's significant.
And that growth is fundamentally driven by the push for environmental sustainability, right?
Absolutely. Pushed by regulations cracking down on persistent chemicals and pulled by demand from industries and consumers for greener alternatives.
Chemically speaking, the Aminopolycarboxylates, especially that fast-adopting GLDA, seem to be the key solutions right now.
And application-wise, while huge sectors like water treatment provide the solid base,
It's personal care showing that really dynamic, fast growth, reflecting how sustainability trends are hitting consumer goods directly.
geographically, North America leads in size for now, thanks to mature regulations.
But Asia-Pacific is where the fastest growth is happening, catching up rapidly due to industrialization and new environmental rules.
It's a fascinating picture, isn't it? Environmental pressure, technological innovation, market demand, all converging.
We started talking about these tiny chemical claws,
Yeah.
and we end up seeing how they fit into this multi-billion-dollar global shift. These biodegradable chelating agents, they're like these hidden building blocks for cleaner water, better agriculture, safer products we use every single day.
Makes you think, doesn't it? What other sort of hidden chemical transitions are underway right now, quietly reshaping our world in ways we don't even see?